What is it, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers That Filters podcast, episode 156. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I'm drinking one of my favorite beers I've found in Indiana, Three Floyd's Gumball Head.
Ooh, I like it.
I like this beer for a couple reasons. One, it's 5.6%. Two, it doesn't taste like it. And three, it's a little bit got lemon flavor in it, which I'm a big fan of. So there you go. A couple ants, and they sold it at Aldi, which means I have to make 2 trips. So it's just a great deal all around.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm Joseph, and I've got Bell's Oberon because
baby,
because it's summer, baby.
Summer.
Damn.
I gotta get back on the Oberon train.
Hell yeah.
Pretty fucking nice.
I'm Gabe, and I'm drinking Insights Brewing Trollway IPA. I'm covering it up with my koozie because, oh boy, a little troll guy.
You're drinking that last episode.
Yeah, because I had it in my fridge and I forgot to drink it, so it was in the car, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this tall boy.
Pop another one of those.
Good for a long episode.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And
Dayton.
I am Dayton, and I am drinking a blue raspberry sour.
Oh,
Yeah, it tastes
Okay.
exactly what you think what you think it would taste like. I can't talk. My brain is fried. But yes, it tastes like a blue raspberry slushy that has alcohol in it.
Okay, I can dig it. That can is very, very minimalist.
It is. It literally just is. It looks like
It almost
something out
looks
of a
like
video
clip
game.
art.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
And here's the thing, I love minimalist designs. I'm gonna say it. That's a little bit too minimalist for me. There's not quite enough going on with it.
Like,
It
if
looks
there was
fake.
ever an oh, go ahead.
I had to look who even brewed it because on the side it doesn't say anything. It literally says blue raspberry Connecticut style, and I had to look on the side label, and it was in tiny little letters. It's brewed and packaged by Evil Twin. It's all right.
You guys know how when we were kids on Halloween, they're like, don't drink unmarked candy because it might have razors in it. That looks like the beer equivalent.
Yeah.
There's not enough packaging.
I was gonna say it looks like if Blue's Clues ever became an alcoholic, that would be the beer art. It would be like Blue's Clues tries a sour. That's what it looks like.
Oh, that's fantastic. Welcome back to the Insurance That Filters podcast, everyone. Right now we're in our monthly rollout due to scheduling in the summer. So you can find our show every first Monday of every month on podcast services and YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on social media and Twitch. Links are in the description below. But yeah, let's do what we've been doing lately and get a little update on everyone's lives. It's been a hot minute since we've chatted all together here. So what happened the last month of note? Date, I'm gonna go to you because I know you got a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, so I guess the big one, so audio listeners can probably hear that I sound a little bit different. That's because everything has moved out of this room. It's literally just an echo chamber, even with my acoustic panel set up. And for the video people, you can obviously see it looks like a prison cell. It's all white. I'm even wearing all white right now. So yeah, I've just been prepping for my move. So we're recording 2 days before I drive back to Michigan. It's gonna be a long ass drive. It's gonna be 14 hours. It's gonna be pretty fucking miserable. But thankfully I've got some friends that are willing to help me move. My parents are coming out here to help me move. And yeah, everything's been going pretty well recently in terms of that. I'm trying to think what else I've really been doing recently. Just been running a lot.
Well, I want to ask too, what's kind of the first trip on the docket? Once you move back and get that taken care of in Michigan, what's the first thing you're gonna do this summer?
Well, technically just hang out with the family over Memorial Day, right? So Memorial Day is this coming weekend, and hang out with them at the pool. And actually some of my friends who live out here, are going to be out in Indianapolis for like the Indy 500, and they're actually going to come up for like an overnight. So like it's
Nice.
like I don't know, it's going to be like a weird like clash of worlds going on there. But then shortly after that, I'm going actually out to like southern Minnesota, like right on like the border of Iowa. Going out to a wedding with a friend. So we'll be out there for like 5 days. Well, like 3 days with day travel each way. And then after that, I'm going over to my sister's place over in Lansing, landscaping for him for like a week.
Okay.
While I'm like working as well, and then that kind of goes into like the big one, the next or like the biggest one of I guess like the early summer, and that's the long trail. So I'll be leaving for that in mid June.
Okay.
So that'll be like 3 weeks long. It'll be out
Oh,
on the
yeah.
trail.
Very nice. Joseph, how have you been? And also, do you have any plans for the Memorial Day weekend?
So let's see, things of note. I lost my sense of taste for 4 days, 5 days. Didn't test positive for COVID though, which is the weirdest part. I had like 4 negative rapid tests over that time period and 1 negative PCR test. And then it came back after a couple days. So I'm not really sure what happened. No other symptoms. I guess I had like a little bit of brain fog. Um, so that was cool. That was neat. I was at work and I was eating lunch, which I make chana masala, which is like a curry basically. And I was like, I can't taste this. It's like or not pre-made, but like I meal prep it. So I had the same thing yesterday or the day before, and it's the same batch. So I know what it should have tasted like, and I was like, oh, I can't taste this. What do I do? Like I'm at work, and I just kind of walked back to my manager and I was like, hey, I couldn't taste my lunch. Should I go? Like, what do I
What's
do?
the protocol here?
And they're like, well, you don't have a positive test, so we can't say that you have to leave. But you probably should go get tested. And I was like, okay, I'll let you guys know what's up. And yeah, I left. So that was about half the day then. That was Thursday. Friday I took off. Negative test throughout that, and they're like, you got a negative PCR test. Like the rapid tests are iffy. Keep testing, but come into work on Saturday. And I was like, okay, guess I'll do that. So yeah, and then after like by Monday, it was back. So it was like, all right, that was weird. It was
And Alyssa got sick too, right?
Yeah, she got sick, but also she was at a greenhouse all day and she has really bad allergies and she didn't take her allergy medication that day.
Sure.
So she thinks it could have been that, or it could be she could have also gotten sick. I don't know, because she also tested negative. She did a PCR test and like 4 or 5 rapid tests too. So yeah, it was super weird. And then I went mountain biking one day. I spent the whole day. It was horrible because my knees were dying. The last 2 runs or last 2 like trails, I was climbing up and I was like, "Oh, this is so bad on my knees. This is going to be miserable." And it was. And then my knees hurt for like 2 days, like picking my knee to like step over things. I was like, "Oh, this is bad. This is going to be really bad." But I rode like 25 miles, so it's and it was mostly uphill.
Oh,
It was a lot of like up and downhill. I think I did.
Ways.
Yeah, it was like almost 1,400 feet of elevation, so it was pretty significant. And so that was fun. I finally got bike shorts for that, so I have like the padded bike shorts. I've been going all this long with a raw dog in my bike seat.
Dude, it saves your tank, like no joke.
What the hell,
Not a big fan
Joseph?
of the bike diaper. Not gonna lie, it feels weird wearing it. Just walking around I imagine that's what a period pad feels like for girls, or something similar.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, that was a new experience for me. Um, let's see. And then for Memorial Day, Alyssa and I are spending the weekend in Chicago. This
Oh,
is kind of our Christmas. We didn't do like gifts for Christmas. This trip is our gift to each other.
that'll
So
be
yeah,
fun, man.
yeah. Got um planned they do a riverboat like architecture tour. That's super cool that I've done before.
Oh.
We got tickets for that, so I'm super stoked to do that again and check out, I mean, Chicago's a cool city, so
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
it'll be
Are
a
you
fun
guys
place to do.
flying or driving?
Where are you gonna drive? There, we got a hotel and it's pretty central, or not pretty central, but it's like walkable and like close to the train line, so
So drive there, park your car, and not drive it again until you leave is the
yes,
That's
ideal.
that
the way
is,
to do Chicago, dude.
yeah,
I hate
yeah,
driving in
that's,
Chicago.
yeah,
Fucking
so,
miserable.
yeah.
I'm gonna hop in next because my story connects to Joseph's in a not fun way. But yeah, last month main thing was finishing up the spring semester. Just having a ton of just bullshit and presentations. I had to do this microbiome symposium that we hosted here on campus, which was there's a Monday night lecture and then all of Tuesday, all of Wednesday. And by the time it was said and done, I had watched 24 different talks and I wanted to die. It was absolutely brutal. Um, but it's over. I'm in the summer now, so I should just be able to work in my lab stuff without much interference. That'll be good. But yeah, the big thing of note was last week I was back in Minnesota because my buddy Chris, who I've talked about on the podcast before, was getting married. Um, and I flew in on Tuesday, and the original plan would be to stay with Joseph and Alyssa for a few days. But then Joseph's like, I can't taste. So I'm like, okay, I can't risk getting sick before the wedding because I was in the wedding party. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to see Joseph and Alyssa or just get to Minneapolis at all 'cause I didn't have my car either because I flew in. So I stayed at my parents' house for 4 days and then went to a hotel and did the wedding stuff on Friday night. It was a rehearsal dinner, which was fun. Went to a brewery in Egan called Fat Pants. I don't know if Gabe and Joseph you heard of it or not. It was all right, but they had pretty good food. It was like unlimited wings and pizza. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Uh, and ate a lot, had a lot of beer, so that was good. And then Saturday was all day doing wedding stuff. And this is the first wedding I've been in. But thankfully I was an usher, so I got all of the perks and other responsibility of
Mm-hmm.
like being up there and having to walk and all that stuff. So that was nice. Kind of hung out and helped out where I could and all that. But the I will say the hardest thing I had to do that day was so we had bought suits and stuff, and since I was usher, I just had a shirt, a tie, and the pants. So I'm like, cool, I don't have to wear like a jacket. But all the people in the wedding party had straight ties, and then the ushers had bow ties, and we thought they were going to be clip-on bow ties. They were not. So a solid hour, hour and a half, where me and the other usher trying to figure out how to tie a bow tie, and I never want to do it ever again. It is fucking impossible. We're
They're
watching
so
like
easy to tie. They're
they are
so
not. They
easy.
are so Joseph. You are on crack. Like we watched so many YouTube
I
tutorials,
own multiple
and
bow
we
ties.
we barely got them to work, and they were like we couldn't touch them the rest of the night, or else they were like and as soon as the wedding was over, the ceremony was over, I took that shit off. I'm like, I'm not wearing this ever again. Fuck bow ties. I will never
They're
do it again.
they're so easy to tie, man.
You are joking. Compared to
No.
straight ties, they're so much harder. Anyway,
No.
but the wedding was good. They had good food, good music. So Chris's brother Dominic has been in this band for a long time, probably like I don't even know, 10 years maybe. And so they were doing like covers all night, and that was really fun. And then yeah, ate a lot, drank a lot, and then they had late night pizza, which is always a pro strat at your wedding. Bring in the late night pizza. Um, yeah, it was just fun to see people from high school and dance and drink and have a good time. So yeah, and I got back on Monday. I will say, I know Dane, you've flown recently. It was weird seeing how few masks there were at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Like solid, like maybe 20% of people were wearing masks, and I'm like, that is not as high as I would like it to be. Um, Especially when I was, going to something where I didn't want to get sick or get anyone else sick. Which I mean, I never do, but I don't know. It was a little weird. I mean, it ended up being fine, but I was also reminded how much I hate flying because I haven't flown
Uh-huh.
in over 2 years. But in any case, got through it, got home. I'm on vacation all this week, thankfully, and then I'll be back at it next week. But my only plans for Memorial Day are I'm seeing Top Gun Maverick, and I'm fucking stoked. That movie I've heard is fantastic, and I love Top Gun, so I'm gonna be a good time. But yeah, Gabe, how you doing?
I'm gonna ignore the Top Gun comment. I didn't think it was a good movie.
The original or the?
I watched the first one for the first time like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh man, we
Here's
just
the
on
thing.
beef.
So
Here's what I'll say.
good.
It's not that good.
I watched
It's
it recently.
great.
It wasn't as good as I remember
It
it
way
being.
too fucking much, you guys. It plays
Okay,
way too much. It
No,
plays
you
4
can never
times.
play Danger Zone too much. And Danger Zone is
No.
a fucking incredible song.
How many times
You're
is it going to
shitting
Danger
on
Zone,
Kenny
man?
Loggins, man. You can't do
Man.
that. K-Log is the man.
They play Danger
Anyway.
Zone 4 times. They play Take Your Breath Away like 5 times. They're banger
way too
songs,
much.
okay?
Anyways. I'm not getting into it.
All right,
Anyways, what have I been up to? Nothing crazy. My month started off with losing my sense of taste, but actually getting COVID. So that was pretty sick. I thought I was hungover because I went to a concert at the Armory or not the Armory, First Ave, and then the next morning I was like, oh, I drank a lot, but then I was still sick the next day, and I was like, uh-oh, it's not good. And then like
In
2 days
trouble.
later, I lost my taste. But yeah, before then I tested and came back positive, so that was a fun start to my month. Wasn't too bad, but been kind of just gearing up for summer, really. I mean, it's finally starting to get a little bit more consistently nice, so I've been taking out my bikes. Found some more road bike routes have been really fun. I finally rode the Minneapolis Greenway. For those who are familiar with the area, it's a pretty popular trail. It's really fun. Did a couple day trips mountain biking, trying to mountain bike as much as I can, getting ready for our race. Been playing a lot of soccer. Been trying to take my bike to anything that's like less than 5 miles. So I bike downtown a couple weekends, Saturday mornings, and play soccer with some other people that are way better than me, and I embarrass myself. It's been pretty fun. What else? Oh, we had Art of Whirl. That was my first time doing that. They have some big concert series in Northeast Minneapolis, which is where Joseph and I live. And it was canceled the last 2 years because of COVID. So this is our first year. It was open. That was super fun doing that and floating around different friend groups and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of small stuff, nothing big. I'm not moving across the country or anything like that.
No, you
But
guys just moved, you got that checked off.
yeah, and settling into that. It was kind of nice having COVID when I had my own place, just because like I wouldn't have to be like, ooh, I'm gonna be in the kitchen. It's just like I'm gonna let it fester. I don't fucking care. Like it didn't matter. So that wasn't too bad. But yeah, no huge Memorial Day plans. Might do a little bit of camping, but the weather isn't looking 100% great right now. A lot of rain in the weekend, so
Sure.
so many days I can get in.
I gotcha. One last question before we move on to the topic for Gabe and Joseph. Now, I asked you last episode, how was the being in a new spot? Now it's been another month. Have your feelings changed or anything? How is it still in the new apartments?
I fucking hate it. I'm just kidding. No, it's still been great, at least for me.
Yeah, I think I like it more because now I know how close I am to certain stuff.
Mhm.
And just being able to walk to like it's a lot more walkable than our last place.
Mm.
It's just a little bit further away enough to where it's like, I don't want to walk it. There's a lot of stuff that's super close, and I don't know, it's nice.
Are you walking around naked a lot, Gabe?
A lot, dude. So much. Because I can, damn it. And you know
That's
how
a nice
fucking
bonus.
awesome it is to tell people, oh, you can crash at my place. Dude, I love it. It's great. It's fucking sick.
Be like, look at this nice couch I got. You can sleep on it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking love that couch, man. I better cost so much money.
Oh, one other quick thing I remembered. So right before I left to go out of town, like 1 or 2 nights beforehand, I was like in the bathroom. I was in the back room and my AC was going because it was like humid out. And all of a sudden I hear the fan like make a different noise. I'm like, that's weird. And I'd been in the back room here for a while. And all of my vents are like on like near the ceiling. They're on this wall, but they're near the ceiling and it kind of goes around because my HVAC's like in this area to my my left. I walk around to the kitchen, and there's just a bunch of like gray particulate shit all over my counter and floor. And I'm like, oh, and it came out of one of my air vents. Because that's like, yeah, the path. All this like little gray shit. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm listening to the fan, and it sounds really funky. And I'm just like, I can't, I don't know what's going on. I just gotta turn this shit off. All right. So like turn it off, clean up everything, and like call maintenance, I'll deal with it. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And so then the maintenance guy comes the next day, and he's like, yeah, something wrong with your AC? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I think it's a fan. He's like, well, let's see how it is. And he turns it on. I'm like, no, don't turn it on. And then the shit just comes out of the vent and like hits him in the face and like all this stuff. I'm like, that's what I was trying to tell you about. Like, there's this great shit. And, it's like, whatever. Thankfully, while I was out of town, they were able to fix it. So I didn't have to deal with it while I was here. But I had to spend like 2 nights very, very warm in this apartment. But I don't know what the fuck was going on. I don't know what this gray shit was. I don't know. I'm sure I want to know. But if
It's
you're,
probably just asbestos or something.
that's why I turned the fan off. I'm like, I'm not taking a risk on this shit, Joseph. But yeah, if gray shit starts coming out of your vents, turn off your AC. That's all I gotta say.
Wise words.
All right, let's get into the topic tonight. So this is a me topic. It's the first one to start here. So a couple episodes ago, we did a topic based on a Daryl Talks Games video, and I like his channel so much. We're doing another one. So he released a video back in March called "How Souls Games Save You." And I'd recommend watching it. I'll link it in the description. You don't need to have played video games or played a Souls game before in order to get something out of it, in my opinion. But it's about this idea of self-efficacy, which is, I'm going to read a definition here. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments. Self-efficacy reflects confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social environment. Basically, it's your belief that you can complete something. It's not self-esteem. That's different. That's like how you perceive your own self-worth. This is, do you believe you can complete a certain task? And he talks about this in relation to Dark Souls games, which are like notoriously difficult. And it's been kind of shown that some people who play these games, they're very hard at first, but then they're able to kind of get the hang of it and get better at it. And they kind of get a lot of self-efficacy from being able to complete these games. And self-efficacy is been correlated to improvements in mental health, like depression and anxiety, stuff like that. So basically, some people have found that through playing these difficult video games, they've been able to improve their mental health because they've attained this higher level of self-efficacy. So I kind of wanted to talk about it in relation to our lives. Just if you guys in your life experience self-efficacy, like if there are certain things that you have done or do that give you this kind of self, belief that you can complete stuff and kind of this positive mental health boost, or if you have a difficult time with that. So, yeah, I'm just curious about it. Dayton, I'm going to you first. I feel like this is a topic you've kind of thought about before.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about this a lot. And I would say I get like two main like I would say like boosts to like my self-efficacy. One is I would say running, like by like completing like different like distances or different like time goals, even like doing like a pre like a what's the right word for it? I don't even know. Like a time trial, essentially, like when you first start like a training program, and then like you like train for it for like 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever, and then you do it again, and then just like seeing like the difference that that training has made is just like huge. Like if you would have asked me like before I did my first sub 20-minute 5K, if I ever thought I was ever going to be able to do a sub 20-minute 5K, I would have been like, I don't really think so, but I'm going to work towards it. And I think that was like really like my first like taste of like, I would say like physical like self-efficacy. And like I can change my body to, do these different tasks, right? But then on like the flip side of it, I think that there's a lot of like mental self-efficacy as well. Like with video games, that one's obvious. With like when we talked about like our like gamer types, how like mine is like mastery, and I think it was like achievement or something like that.
Hmm.
So I've never played Dark Souls before, but I've played, I would say, like games that have similar like mastery levels in them, like Rocket League being a big one.
Hmm.
And then I've recently been replaying Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is, it's kind of like a Dark Souls game in a way,
It's pretty similar. Yeah.
like similar combat styles. And I've been playing that on like the hardest difficulty, so it's like really punishing. Like in some cases, like you literally can't mess up at all, or you'll
Hmm.
die. Um, and then in terms of like just like work projects and stuff like that, like also like my pack raft, that was another one where I I really didn't think that I could do it before I did it.
Hmm.
But in doing that, it gives me like a lot more like I don't really know if like confidence is the right word, because then it kind of goes into like self esteem.
Hmm.
But it just kind of
Hmm.
shows you like how much you can actually do if you just put your mind to it.
Right. And like that experience can maybe like inform other experiences and maybe give you more confidence in the future to do
Right.
new things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. Uh, Gabe, I'm going to you. What do you think about this topic?
Yeah, I think splitting it up like Dayton did kind of make sense in my head, where like physically self-efficacy, like I feel a lot more comfortable in than other aspects, just because I like to try and stay active as much as possible, and like being able to achieve a certain goal that I have in mind is really nice, or like being able to go faster on a mountain bike or bicycle or lift a little bit heavier the next time, like brings me a lot of accomplishment. And I don't think I'm ever like, I can't do that. It's like, what do I need to do to get to it, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I definitely feel that. I think, like if it's a hobby or anything for fun, I'm also pretty good about just like thinking I'll at least try it. I don't think I'm a type of person, like if there's a hobby that I want to try, like I'm not gonna back away from it because it's like overwhelming. Um, but I think things get different for me, at least for work, because uh, it's like a subject that I'm always in, so there it gets pretty in the weeds pretty quick. And I can get to a point where there's things that I don't know what I don't know, and that gets really tricky to like
Hmm.
keep my like self-efficacy, I guess, up when I get to like some very complicated, intricate tasks that require a lot of previous knowledge or other people's knowledge, which I mean, I wouldn't say that like, I mean, there's a couple things I'd say like in the 2.5 years I've been working at my job where I'm like, I just couldn't figure it out. Like there's
Hmm.
just gonna be some things and it's super fucking frustrating. There's just some problems that just might not have solutions that are known to anybody. Um, but I think that's something that's definitely improved for me over the years. Trying like getting into more and more intricate tasks and getting into like different like methods of solving something or to kind of delve into it a little bit differently. Like in college, I was a lot more hesitant to like try and jump into stuff, and I have a better idea of like what I need to do to accomplish it, or like
Hmm.
how long it's gonna take. So it really depends on what it is for me.
Sure. Joseph.
Um, I don't know if it's because I was a bit more self-reflective during college, potentially, or it's easier for me to reflect about college experiences. But I feel like I experienced more self-efficacy then. I it could be too because like in college, you're at least in classes, you're there's like a linear progression, a clear linear, right? They're teaching you something and you're learning and absorbing this knowledge in a linear and clear, hopefully clear and predefined way. Um, so like I can definitely pinpoint times in that, especially in like, calculus 2 or, some like higher electronics courses where okay, where it clicks, because that was a big thing that he talks about in his videos, like the moment where it quote clicks and like
Hmm. Hmm.
okay, now I understand the rules. And like I can really pinpoint that in college and like I can most of my classes I can like okay, here's when these topics really stuck with me. Here is when I started to understand it, or when I knew I wasn't going to understand it. Like power systems, fuck power systems. Shit doesn't make any sense. Fuck power lines, fuck generators, fuck that shit. Um, but I when I was working engineering, I certainly had moments like that, but it felt less of a progression for me. So it didn't there it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, this little thing would click, but then it's like, okay, now here's a whole nother list of problems, and who fucking knows what's behind any of those doors, right? It was, to me at least, it was less of a clear, like, okay, like on the projects I worked on, there was no like, oh, I know how this entire machine works now. Duh. Now I can work on every aspect of it. Like, and maybe that was just because of the nature of the projects, and the company or whatever. Myself, who knows? That I, just didn't get to that point. But I mean, I've certainly seen progression. I can. We all have similar hobbies, right? We all own mountain bikes. We're all pretty active people. So, like, yeah, I can see it there, but I don't want to beat that dead horse too much
Right.
more. So,
Right.
yeah, I would say that's when I saw it the most, for sure.
Sure. Okay. I got you. Yeah, for me, the reason I want to talk about this is because this is something I actually have a lot of issues with in my personal life. I have a really hard time with self-efficacy. And I think it's because something he talks about later in the video called the locus of control. So he gives the example of taking like a test in college, right? And let's say you do really bad on the test. When that happens, do you blame yourself for not studying enough, or do you blame the teacher or the course for being bad? Or they like put something on there when it's supposed to be on there? And similarly, when you do really well in the test, do you praise yourself for like studying and doing well, and or was it just nah, it's just an easy test, or they messed up and made it easier than they're supposed to, right? So that the locus of control affects how much self-efficacy you will get out of things. Basically, if you can attribute it to anything other than yourself, you're not going to get the self-efficacy. You only get it when it was all you, right? And another like analogy to this would be like in video games, if you like cheese a boss, right? You're not necessarily going to get self-efficacy because you didn't like it wasn't difficult. You didn't do it like the proper way, right? You're like, oh, I used a cheese strat, or I was over leveled, or this and the other thing, right? So it's not really you don't get like oh you don't get that idea of what Jose like oh it clicks, like I understand the boss, like no, I just cheesed it, like I didn't have to understand it, I took like this kind of shortcut, right? And like through all this, the reason I've talked before on the podcast, I have a hard time being proud of my achievements, and that's because a lot of things in my life I push off the locus of control away from myself, so I don't feel like it was me that did it, or it was only me. So like for example, like in school, right? I'm not trying to brag. I've always done well in school, but it's never been that difficult for me. It's always I feel like maybe it clicked for me a long time ago, and I got the self-efficacy boost way back then, but now it doesn't like I don't get the same hit anymore. It's like a drug. I got the tolerance. So like in college, it's like yeah, it's like kind of a foregone conclusion of how I'm gonna do in this class. I'm not really I've already started to understand how school works. I can adapt to a new class or whatever really quickly. So it's not really I don't get satisfaction. And a lot of times in college, I bitched a lot in like early episodes of the podcast about how classes were just run super poorly, and so it felt out of my control of how I was doing. It's either it was poorly, so I was able to capitalize on that, or it was doing not as good because of that. So I was often pushing locus control away from myself in school. And then similarly with exercise, you guys talked about Dayton saying that, oh, if I didn't think I'd be able to run this fast, but I worked at it and was able to. That's something I also don't feel proud of anymore because maybe because I worked out a lot when I was younger and I did cross country, like it's a foregone conclusion that if I run every day, I will get faster. Like I know that's going to happen, so it's not like surprising. I mean, I have to like stick to the schedule and do it. Maybe that's the thing that would be more satisfying. But I know that if I work out X many days a week or I run X many days a week, I will eventually get faster because that's just kind of how it works. So it's not like surprising, or I don't really feel proud of that because it's like, oh, I just did what was expected and I got the result that was expected. Um, so the few things that I do like feel proud of and I get efficacy from are things like this podcast when we first started because it wasn't a foregone conclusion. It's like, okay, this is something we want to do. We don't know if it's going to work. let's figure it out and see if we can do it. And it was pretty much just us. You know, we didn't get a whole lot of outside help, and we figured it out and we did it. And that makes me proud and happy because the locus control is back on us, and it had a good result, right? And it wasn't necessarily expected. And that gave me the confidence to do a second podcast that I'm now doing. But it's hard for me to bring that confidence in other parts of my life. It's kind of like I got podcasting down, but that's not going to make me feel more confident in like social settings, you know, or like there are certain video games that I feel like I get. Like there was one earlier I played earlier this year called Death's Door. I mean, it was into last year that I loved, and I feel like I just got that game and I got really good at it, and it felt really good. But I'm like, oh, it's just a video game; it doesn't matter, and I have a hard time transferring that confidence into my life. So I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to put the locus control back on myself and say that was all me because maybe it's because I have low self-esteem. But just like I often feel like, oh, it's not. It's never just me. I'm sure there was some other reason why this thing, you know, went well or not well. If I want to push the blame, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But I don't know if you guys have had any can relate to that at all with stuff in your life.
I mean, it's interesting hearing you and Joseph talk about like the self-efficacy like during school, because I don't remember ever getting any feelings of like self-efficacy from school.
Mm.
Um, I I don't really know why. Maybe it was just because it was something that was like expected of me, or like, or at least like I expected it. Sort of like you were kind of getting
Mm.
into, Jacob, where like you kind of described it as like a foregone conclusion, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm going to study on this. I'm going to put in enough effort to get like a B on this exam or whatever. And if I can do that, then like I'm satisfied. um, and I think like as like a result of that, like I never had it like click, right? Where like I didn't in school, I never like delved deep enough into like one particular subject to make it feel like it like clicked for me. Like
Mm.
something that you can relate to, Jacob, is that um, like with steel, right? Like how
Mm.
we did so much with like steel phase diagrams and like heat treating of steel, right? In school, I didn't really like have like a good understanding of like the different like heat treatments that you like perform on steel and stuff like
Yep.
that. It wasn't until like I got into like my job now where like I fully understood like why
Right.
we're doing like these things and exactly like what like the processes are, and like that's what it took for me to like get that like that click feeling
Yeah. Yeah.
in that subject. So I don't know if maybe it was just like I just like learned, I felt like I learned things too early in school, where like I felt like I could kind of like cheese it in a way, right? Where like
Mhm.
I could just remember this stuff and not really stretch my learning and like understand like the I don't know, like the underlying like concepts.
Right. No, I think yeah. Going off of that, like I think you're right. I think it is. It's more of a cheese because we only learned what we needed to know to do good enough on the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an upper limit to that, which is like an A. And to get an A, you don't have to know everything about heat treatments. You don't have to get it to click. You just have to know what you need to know to get the
Mm-hmm.
A. And because of that system, because like they don't encourage full understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't really need it. And like you said, when you get to your job, you do need it, so you learn it and then you can get it. Or if you're doing like
Right.
research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the way school is set up, you don't need to get it to click. You just need to know how to pass a test. And I think that's possibly a failure or a shortcoming of our education system. But yeah, I think it is kind of in that cheese category of like,
Mm-hmm.
how can I cheese this to do as well as I need to do?
Right.
Yeah, so I totally hear what you're saying. And like, what's funny is like contrasting that with now, I'm doing research in like microbiology. I really don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm cheesing it enough to you know, to seem like I am. Like I'm really good at presentations, so like I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what I'm talking about, and no one knows the difference. No one's gonna call me out on it. So it's like I don't get that self-efficacy because I don't feel like I know it, but I'm getting the rewarded as if I did, which
Mm-hmm.
is that dissonance is really difficult for me. Um, so yeah, it's hard for me. I think because of the way that things are measured in the world, I have when the things that how the world measures my progress, how I measure my progress, when those don't line up, I can't feel like proud of myself because it's not correct in my eyes, or it just doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of this is personal issues for me too. I know I have an issue with this. It's not. I'm not saying I'm fully like correct or right in my thinking. It's just kind of how my experience has been.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, kind of relating it back to like how you felt like when we first created like the podcast, and we didn't. My favorite, one of my favorite sayings recently has been, "I don't know shit about fuck." Right, like just being like, I don't know like anything what's going on right now, and like literally like when we first started podcasting, we knew shit about fuck, right? Like we didn't know
Mhm.
anything, um, and I mean that's kind of you know shown in both like the audio and in the top to the topics, and
Mhm.
how like our cadence of when like we would talk and everything like that. Like it was just a mess.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it sounds like to me that like between like the gripes that you have like schooling and like that experience, it seems like problem solving, right? Like where it actually has like some significance is like
Mhm.
important to your self-efficacy. Um,
Right.
and I mean, to me, like maybe I'm like like over analyzing this, but maybe like I feel like that's like a key indicator for like business people, where
Mm.
like actually there's a real world problem, right? And then you're going out and you're doing something that hasn't been done before, and you don't know if it's going to work, but you're taking the risk because you trust yourself and your own abilities to to come up with that solution.
Right. Oh yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think you're onto something there. The issue that I've also run into when it comes to real world problems that are like very complex and complicated is that it's never enough. Like you never fully solve the problem, you know. Um, Not to get too dark and heavy, but we're recording this on what is it, May 24th, and there was a horrible school shooting out earlier today. And I honestly had not been in a great mood this evening because of it. And gun control and gun violence in America is a problem that I would like to be solved, but it's just like how, like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like it's never going to be fixed, and there are so many different ways to attack it, and it's like, what would this work? Would this work? Even if it would work, we're actually going to pass it in Congress? Probably not. Um, so that I think that's why I kind of like video games, because video games give you all the tools you need to succeed. You just have to do it. And that's very unique. Like that is a problem-solving experience that you don't really get anywhere else in life. Um, Even in school. Like in school, theoretically, you have all this stuff, but your professor could just be an asshole and not do things the way they're supposed to do, right? Um, but in video games, it's like if it's a good game, you have all the mechanics and information at your disposal. It's just, can you learn it? Can you execute it with your hands, right? Or your mind? And can you get to the end of the game? And some games are really hard. And that's why Dark Souls, I think, is a good fast for this whole discussion, is that these games are known to be hard. They are hard. You have to put in the work and the time and improve. And it's not just as easy as like running, where, not saying running is easy, but with running, theoretically, you could just do it every day. I feel like it's a little more complex than that. So I think that's why I gravitate towards video games, because all the tools are there, and I know they're there, and I know I can beat it. I can't necessarily beat the real world a lot of times, which is a little bit sad. But
Hmm.
um, to kind of transition this into your topic, Dings, I think it's similar. Do you want to get into your deal?
Yeah, so it definitely is similar to this. And basically, like the question that I want to pose to you guys is like, when do you have grit? And like my definition of grit comes from I can't remember what book it was that I was reading this in, um, but it basically just talked about like when when do people have grit, and like when does it have like a payoff for them versus like when is it just them putting their head down working towards something even though it doesn't really matter. um, so it's just like how do you, I guess in some ways it's kind of similar to like delayed gratification. Like how much are you willing to delay gratification to get like that self-efficacy boost or self-esteem boost. And I think for some things it's more obvious than others, right? Where like grit in physical exercise looks very different than grit in like mental exercises. Um, so I don't know, like Gabe, you want to start that off?
Yeah. And I think, like, ironically, I mean, talking kind of self-efficacy and grit, sometimes it comes when I don't expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
When people expect more of myself than I thought I was capable of. And I know it sounds super hokey, but like, I don't know, sometimes I get tasks at work that they're like, yeah, just do this. And I'm like, I know nothing about this. I have no fucking clue where to even begin on this. Uh, and you were talking about like the locust thing. Like, definitely my way of solving problems is going to be different than other people's. But I think having like the pressure there of like, yeah, I mean, people who told you to do this will be pretty happy if you could do it. Uh, adds a lot more motivation for me to be I'm going to use the word tenacious
Hey.
uh into solving
Oh,
something, even if it's long term. I mean, sometimes, there's tasks I think, might take longer than what they expect, or it might be shorter, but like I will stick with it if it's something that they expect of me. Which is a little ironic, but yeah, I think having like some level of expectation is pretty easy motivator for me to stay on a path. And also, if there's something that I feel is like worth fighting for, I guess, like if there's something that's worth grinding it out for, I can put my head down and kind of just go through it. I mean, like Dana was saying, it's different in work and physical, but I mean, there's a lot of times I don't want to work out or stay active, but I like the benefits that it gives me and the way it makes me feel about myself. So I know like the benefit long term will be better. Like, you know, if I
Mm-hmm.
lift, I might be able to bike a little bit faster or something. Like, I
Right.
think um, it really depends on how bad I want it
Mm-hmm.
or how bad other people want it, I guess, to say in short. I don't know if you have anything similar about that, Dayton, at work, but
Sorry, I
uh,
was writing out a question to ask you guys earlier. Can you repeat that?
oh, I was just gonna say if you have anything like that, like in like the corporate world where like people expect something of you that you have no fucking clue of like what you're gonna do, and you're like, I guess I gotta figure this out, you know?
Yeah, that happens very often.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I get a lot of self-efficacy from though, because it's one of those situations where like with Jacob, we're like we don't know what the answer is. Like we don't have any straightforward way of doing it. It's not a foregone conclusion that it's even going to be a
Yeah.
successful I would say like just like encounter, right? Like or a successful project. Um,
Mhm.
and in completing those, you're just like, damn, okay, maybe I actually do know, shit about fuck here.
Yeah.
But
I do think sometimes when I'm like solving problems, I will talk to people who know certain things better than I will, and I can definitely like, and this is kind of going back to that like that locus. Am I saying that word right?
yeah, locus of control.
Okay. The locus of control where like sometimes I'm like, well, they just knew the answer and I just like, you know, I just put all the pieces together.
mm-hmm.
But like someone's got to do that, right? Like someone's got to be able to be capable of knowing who to talk to, be comfortable enough to talk to people and put their own spin and sauce on it. So I think when I first started work, there's a lot of times where I'm like, well, I didn't do any of that. Like I just asked around, people knew enough that they really just did it for me. But I think now it's a lot more of like, yeah, they knew some stuff, but like I knew stuff they didn't. And there was like being able just like to manage that and solve the problem that way. Um, definitely, I think will put a little bit of it back on me. And I'm a little bit more like prideful of being able to solve it or like be able to talk because some of these people aren't like the most easy people to talk to or the most difficult
Mm,
with. So like there's a lot of managing of relationships and
right.
making sure you attack it the right way. Like there's kind of a game and dealing with professional relationships for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that is its own way of solving problems for me. So sometimes if I get a really big task and I need to like have grit, uh, I can go about meeting the right people to at least get a start.
Mm-hmm.
That has been found to be a really good solution for me.
Right. If I can just go off of that quick, I think it's interesting because I'm similar in that like if I'm have to do something or figure something out, if I know someone knows the answer, I'm just gonna ask them. Like I'm not gonna do it on my own because in my mind it's a waste of time. I'm trying to be efficient. So like if so and so knows how to do the thing, I'm just gonna ask them how to do the thing. Maybe it's a little bit annoying because then they have to take time to tell me about it. But in my mind, it's like, well, the most efficient path to this getting done is me to just ask this person. Um, Thankfully, everyone in my lab is very easy to talk to, so I don't have to do the problem solving you have to do, Gabe. But I've done that before in internships, and it's not fun. So I know what you're talking about, but um, yeah, I think when I do have to ask for help or I kind of pawn off something to someone else who knows how to do it better, I do. That is me pushing the locus off of me, and so I do have a hard time
Mm.
feeling good about that. But maybe it's something that'll improve over time. But for
Yeah,
me, I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say if it's a bigger problem, I feel like that kind of ties into the grit thing, right? Where it's like you were the one who could stick through all those conversations, figure out what you needed to know, and were able to understand it enough to solve the problem that you were given, or be able to solve it in a way that whoever gave it to you is satisfied with it. Like that's its own accomplishment in my mind.
For sure. Um, for me, and when I think about having grit, I feel like I don't have it often, but I think that the times when I do are this is gonna sound pretentious, but when I think that when I'm pretty confident I'm right about something, I will have grit in executing it in the way that I think it is right, or trying to convince people that my way is correct. Um, because I like to believe that when I think that I'm doing something the correct way, or I think something is when I think I'm right, it's because I put in research or from experience, or I have some level of credibility in order to say that. It's not just random whim of my of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's something that I've hopefully thought a lot about or done research on. So like for example, in like a social situation, if like a topic comes up that I have knowledge about or I think I'm right about, then I'll have grit and like pursuing that and going through that topic. Or occasionally, well, we've talked about in the podcast before. I think we all like helping other people when they come to ask you for help. And if you feel like you have knowledge on something, you can help them. I maybe it's not fully as much grit as other things, but I feel like I have grit in like pursuing that and making sure they're good and they know what they need to know and following up with them and make sure everything came like worked out well. And I feel like I'm pretty good at keeping track of people's like emotional states or progress, or just trying to check in with them. Like, hey, we talked about this. Are you still good? That kind of stuff. Um, but again, going back to the self-efficacy conversation, I feel like I'm have no like very low knowledge, or I feel like I can't do something, or I'm just kind of out of my depth. I have very low grit. I'm not good at. I'm not good at like persevering at something when I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Like I don't start things I think I'm going to fail at. I try to only start things that I'm confident I will succeed, or it's like a pretty good chance, like a 50-50. But if I know something is not going to go well, I'm just not going to do it. Um, which is a possible shortcoming of mine. But um, yeah, so I guess when I'm confident in myself on a certain thing, I'll have grit in pursuing it to completion. But beyond that, I don't really have it very often.
Hmm. Hmm.
Joseph, what about you?
Um, I've noticed my grit, or when I, excuse me, when I like am able to like really buckle down, it's when something has to get done. And that could be like deadline oriented, or it could just be like the nature of a thing. And I think that partially comes from uh playing or god damn it, running cross country. Fuck.
You were gonna say
Um,
playing cross country,
I
you
know.
Play
fool.
cross country.
Yeah, yeah, fuck you guys. All right. Running cross country in high school and being like, listen, you're supposed to run 10 miles, you got to run 10 miles. Like,
Hmm.
my coach is driving or not driving, but he'd ride his bike around and make sure that, obviously he trusted us, but like, you got to do it. It doesn't matter if you're tired, you got to fucking do it. Um, and then also like, growing up on and working on a farm from a young age, it's like, all right, it's 9 o'clock at night, but this needs to get done tonight. I don't have a choice. I have to just do it.
Hmm.
You know, it's not like it's a deadline because it's not like stuff got moved or anything. It's like this just has to be done. You know, I there were times where I'd have to drive back to the farm at night because that's when the truck is coming and I gotta load it up with, berries going out or whatever, or just staying until 10 o'clock at night, working from 8 to 10. It's like that happened. It didn't happen all that often, but it's like, okay, when it does, you gotta fucking do it,
Hmm.
And because there's people counting on you and there's other people doing it too, you gotta do it. And I think it's when stuff has to be done, which is kind of shitty, I think, where it's like, oh,
Hmm.
if it doesn't need to be done right away. Not to say that I won't do things, but like, I think a good example, like Dayton, when we were on Isle Royal, and after it was the second day and it was raining, and I was like, I am in pain right now, but it is raining. I'm gonna eat a quick snack and then we just gotta keep going. Like I am miserable. We're both miserable right now. Like I just gotta keep going. This sucks. I
Yep.
hate it. I'm having a blast, but like I just gotta keep going. Like, my ankle was killing me and it's like I can't just stop, you
Hmm.
know. I gotta ignore it, keep going. And that's nothing I can do about it. Or even when we were fucking paddling across the lake and we couldn't see shit. It's like, well, I can't turn around,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
You're gonna fucking go.
Yep.
Um,
I very
or
much relate to that, Joseph.
yeah, yeah, I think cross country really pushed that word. And it's also a thing where like I can always do one more, right? I can always take one more step. If I'm biking, I can crank one more crank on the pedals, one more whatever, that's always something that gets me through is like I can do one more. I can, whatever it is, one more and I'll be fine. And then you just keep, you build on that and that's how I
Right.
get through a lot of stuff. But it like even writing papers in college, it's like I can write another sentence before I pause or I can finish this paragraph and it's like, I'll just do another and I'll just do it and then you get it done and
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's whatever. But breaking it up and like just all right, no choice, got to do it, doesn't matter. Like that's where
Mhm.
I've seen it the most, and obviously I can apply that to work and other aspects too. But the easiest is physical activities for that.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just going off of that, I completely relate to that. I think I'm similar. Yeah, if something has to get done, and if it doesn't get done, either I'm going to die or someone else is going to notice, then I will get it done. If it's just me, if I can like get away with not doing it because I'm the person who's gonna know, then I won't. But like I'm thinking about when Dayton almost killed me in the White Mountains trip, and like, you know,
Ah.
we're like when you're over halfway done with the day, and it's like, well, I have to get back to camp or else I'm gonna be out here, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna get back to camp. It's like you have to do it.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be happy about it. I'm gonna be dying, but I'll get it done because it has to get done. Um, and then the other one is, yeah, if I feel like someone else is holding me accountable. So like for example, there was a like last month or I was trying to be better about my sleep schedule, and I knew if I just set my own goals by myself, I wouldn't stick to it. But I have my friend Lissa keep me accountable because I would like text her when I woke up every morning, and that actually got me to do it. Right? I need like someone else, even like she wouldn't care if I messed up, but like me knowing that she's paying attention, that's enough to make me to do it. Um, and then the other one is like if it's something like the podcast where honestly, if we were like late uploading, it's not a big deal, but I care a lot about that. It's like I remember there was one night. So usually how this works is we record on Thursdays and then I edit the video on Sunday night and then it goes up Monday. There was one Sunday night where I was trying to export the video and it just kept failing over and over and over again. And it's like, well, it has to go up tomorrow morning, so I gotta get this to work. And changed, and it took like an hour every time it had to export. So I had to keep like changing the settings to try and get so like 3 or 4 times to finally get it to export well. But it's like I was up late that night, but it's like, well, I need this to go up by Monday morning, so like I'm gonna stay up and I'm gonna do it. Like, so there are things like that where, like Joe said, if it has to get done, I'll stay up and do it. It's not I don't mind that. But if I can like get away with it, like if there's an assignment I was planning on working on Tuesday and it's not due till Thursday, it's like, yeah, I can push it to Wednesday. It's fine. So that's another thing I have to work on myself.
So the question that I had written down when Gabe asked me the question earlier is when has having grit bitten you guys in the ass? Has it? I mean, because I know of many times where having grit has bitten me in the ass.
For me, it's just staying up too late, but
Yeah.
that's not even that big of a deal. So
I'd say there were times, even in school, but mostly like at work, where it's like, I got to solve this problem. I want to solve this, or like this section of it. Let's just say it's like, I know I can. I just need to keep trying. It's like, oh, this person already knew the answer, and I could have asked them, but I wanted to. And it's like, well, I just spent 2 hours on something that could have taken 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened a couple times, and it's like, fuck. God damn it. Like now I acquire the knowledge and I know ways that it won't work, which is good, but it's like at the same time you can't help but like be pissed at yourself for, you know, using time like that.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah, I think I would say something similar about like work. Like sometimes definitely we'll get too in the weeds, and like sometimes if you get too stuck in it and your own thinking, you're just not gonna solve it, and you're just like 1 more hour, and then you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or in weird situations where like you end up being able to solve a problem, and then they're like, "Oh, you're the go-to person for that problem at work, you know?" And you're like, "No, no, 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 no. I just Googled it. That's all I did." They're like, "No, you are the expert for this. You get all of these problems now." Fuck me, dude. Sometimes I think there is merit in not solving a problem at work. I'm just gonna say it.
That's a funny perspective.
Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I don't think
No,
you're wrong
you're
in the
right. You're
slightest.
definitely right.
Because sometimes they give you some horror shit, and you're like, I don't want to be good at this.
Yep.
What about you, Dayton?
Well, I guess like the initial reason why I asked this, because in like the book that I was reading, which I think I remember the name of it, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow. They
Oh, it's been getting recommended to me like crazy on Goodreads.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty good. I mean I forget how deep into it, maybe like 10%, 20%, I don't know.
Okay.
But like the example that they give was with West Point, right? Like the Army Academy. And how like one of the, I think it's like an entrance requirement or something like that, or maybe it's like in like the first week of classes, like all like the freshmen have to do this thing, which is like the equivalent of like Hell Week essentially.
Yep.
Where they all have to do just like an insane amount of like physical activity. It's basically like boot camp, right? Where like a lot of physical activity, like psychological shit, where like they like wake you up in the middle of the night, and they were trying to like correlate how well basically a person's ability to get through that week was in how long they would stay with the army, right? And essentially they found that they were almost like inversely correlated, where like the people that did really well in this Hell Week and were really good at having grit and just putting their head down, getting through this shit, didn't stick around in the army for very long. And I forget what like their reasoning was. It was, was for this, but it got me thinking about like, posing this question to you guys, because like at least for me, I can think of two examples like when grit is like having too much has just bit me in the ass. One is like with running, where I'm like, oh, like, my training plan says I have to run this much today. I am in pain today, but I need to get this done. If I don't get this done, I'm gonna just be a wreck. I'm gonna be pissed off at myself, and I'm not gonna be happy. And then, of course, if you keep on doing that, then you're gonna get even more and more hurt, and it's just not a good position to be in. And then similar to like with Joseph's, where like you're working on something, you're like, I can do this, when like you could have just like asked somebody, a simple question, and it would be like, oh yeah, like just do XYZ thing. or in my case where it's like people ask me to do something and like I really don't like think critically about like if I should be doing it or not. And then like I like sink a few hours into it, and then like I like tell my supervisor and like our weekly update or whatever about it, and he's like why are you doing that? And I'm just like, well, somebody asked me to do it. And that's definitely a time where I don't have, or having too much grit has like bit me in the ass, because it ends up me getting overworked and doing shit that I shouldn't be doing.
Right. Yeah, that West Point study is really fascinating. I really want to know what their reasoning was. I wonder if it was like the ones who had high grit had less like adaptability
Well, it probably had
or
to
like
do with
perspective,
burnout.
or burnout too. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's probably one of those things where if you show that you like handled it well, they give you more shitty jobs potentially, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, and then I can keep literally what we were talking about. It's like I can keep doing this. I'm fine. I don't need a rest. I can keep going. I can keep going. And then it's like, well, now I can't,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I wish
I'd
I
have to
remembered
guess.
what it was. But yeah, I just found it like very fascinating. Because like it seems like they would be correlated. Like
Yeah.
I guess positively correlated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, just weird.
That's fascinating. Any last thoughts on grit before we move on?
Um,
All right,
no,
I'm cutting it
other
off.
than other than I thought it was funny that Dayton was talking about like, oh, I'm injured, I shouldn't keep running, and then you do, and it's like literally earlier this episode I was talking about mountain biking. Ah, my knee kind of hurts. I'll just keep going. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
literally, not even thinking about grit at all then, or
Yeah.
in that moment. Well, in the moment I was like, I can keep going. I can do a couple more cranks. Yeah, my knee's only popping a little bit. It's not that bad. Just like again, it's like got to get to the top of the hill.
Right.
All right,
There we go.
you know.
Well, to switch gears, a little more of a fun topic to end off this month's episode. I want to touch on something Gabe mentioned offhand last episode that I thought could be a fun discussion. So the core idea is, if you could bring one thing back to the past to impress people, what would that be? And before we do, we gotta make the rules. As everyone knows, we gotta make the rules in this podcast so we can play within those rules. So one, what time period are we going to? Two, how big of a thing can you bring? Like, what are the requirements to like actually bringing the thing? And three, what is our like, what are we measuring? Is it how much we impress people? Is it like what would make you rich and famous? So what are our thoughts on those three criteria there? I'm thinking maybe medieval times.
Mm-hmm.
Some civilization, but not too far
Medieval
along.
times, no size limit. You can bring whatever the fuck you
No,
want, baby.
I don't know. I feel like I'd be able to carry it in like a teleporter or a time machine.
No fucking size limit, baby.
You can bring like an entire city. That doesn't. You can't.
Okay, no, it's gotta be like one thing. Like, you could bring a skyscraper if you wanted, I guess.
I don't
Okay,
know.
the size of a house or smaller. How about that? The
House or
teleporter.
smaller?
A whole house. That's too easy. Then
I
you just
feel
do a
like you got
house.
to be able to you got to be able to move it yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I
Like
think
like yeah, personal
But-
moving only.
Can you do cars then? You can technically move those
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, I would say a car or any sort of vehicle, but like
You can't bring other shit in the car. You can't like have your car packed with like assault.
No, the
rifles or
car. It's only
something.
one item. It's like one
Yes,
thing.
yeah. That's why I'm just being clear. It can't be like, oh, my car happened to have an AR-15 and an iPhone in it. Like you can't do that.
Okay, and then what are we measuring? Is it just to impress people? Like, would you become like a king? What are we thinking here?
I would
I
say just
feel like-
influence.
influence / believability that you truly came from the future.
Oh,
I
okay.
think-
So you want to convince people?
Yes, because I think you could go back far enough in time and bring anything and be like, "Oh, you're just a fucking wizard, dude." Like that's the explanation. Like that's
Or
it.
you're just from another country because people, if they weren't traveling as
country
much,
or you have to truly convince people that you are from the future.
That's
I think.
interesting. That might change my answer because if I can go first, I thought about this a little bit beforehand. I was thinking like a camelback, and hear me out, because people know about water. All right, they like drink good water. Okay, and they have to carry it around. They have some sort of like those old school like leather pouches. I'm sure.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, but like you got this shitty leather thing. Check out this like slightly better version of it that's also a backpack. So like it's something they can understand. It's not like an iPhone. You give them an iPhone, they don't know what the fuck's going on. That's not gonna be impressive. It's a metal box, right? But it's like this thing you can put on your hold in your back, right? You don't have to put it in your belt or whatever. It can hold water, you can suck through the straw, and it can hold other shit. I think it'd be kind of impressive. I think they dig that. And they could understand it with their little minds.
Their little,
Little
minds.
minds.
Oh my god, Jacob. Dude, all these
It's a
people
little-
that died in the fucking Black Plague are rolling in their
Yeah.
graves right now.
I think it would be hard. I feel okay. Everyone's gonna initially think phone, right? But I think the issue with the phone is like you're not bringing Google with you. Like
Yeah,
the
you
most
don't have the
powerful
internet
part,
or cell
yeah,
service.
the most powerful part about a phone is that it's connected to the internet in some shape or
Mhm,
form.
mhm.
So you wouldn't be able to like, I pick my phone, a cell tower, a charger. Like you can't do all
And
that.
if
So
you
like,
have a charger, like what are you gonna plug it into? You
right, so
bring
like
a
you'd bring
generator
it
with
exactly.
you too?
You'd bring it back in
Potato.
time, be like check out Temple Run and Angry
Yeah.
Birds, and then it would die in an hour, and they'd be like, okay, kill him. I want the shiny box. Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I see where you're going with Camelback, I guess.
It's something they have to understand. Because they don't
Right.
understand it, they're gonna call you a witch and burn you at the stake or whatever.
They're gonna do
Mhm.
that anyways.
I
If
mean, yeah.
someone showed
Probably.
up and like, here's this magical thing that's really cool, they're gonna be like, I want that. You're dead. It's my thing now, even if they don't know how to use it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Dayton, what do you think of down there?
So I don't know. I'm kind of torn between two different things. Like one being like in like the humanitarian side of things. So like I was thinking
Mm,
like a water filter or something like that. Um, like where you back then you had to get water from wells, and it's
right.
like, okay, well, what if I just pulled out this little thing that's only like 4 inches long, and you can just like drink straight out of the freaking water from it, and you'd be fine. See, like that's something I think would be interesting, but also they'd just be like, okay, whatever, it's just a straw. Like they don't know what like germs are back then.
Also, yeah, because
um,
back there's a lot of snake oil salesmen that are like saying, "Oh, like this will cure disease. This will cure disease." There's gonna
right.
think you're another one of those guys. That's like convincing you from the future.
Right. And the other option that I was kind of thinking about was an extremely detailed world map.
Mm.
Mm,
Because I know
interesting.
back then they had like a general understanding of like what was over there. Like even before like Christopher Columbus and all them like traveled over here, they knew that there was another like continent over here, like between here
Sure.
and India, but they didn't know like the general shape. They didn't really even know like what like the general shape of like all of like Europe and stuff really looked like that closely. Um,
But would they believe you? You
it's
don't have
super,
proof.
Anyone can draw a map.
but it's super easy to verify is the thing.
Also, this map is gonna say the world is round. They're not gonna like that. They're
No,
not gonna.
people
No, no,
believe people knew
yeah,
the world was round.
Oh, in
yeah.
medieval time. When was what's his face around?
That was
Starting to
like
Galileo?
see.
that
No, the
was like in like Greek or Roman times. That was
Or you
I
think
guess I'm
Copernicus. That was no,
yeah
no,
Copernicus
Copernicus.
or
He was
whatever his name was.
no Copernicus was the guy who said that we rotated around the
about
sun, not everything
Right.
else rotated around
yeah.
us.
I'm looking it up.
Or is that Galileo and are
Uh,
we getting them confused? I know
uh,
it's one of
Ancient. They're
those
saying ancient Greeks ish. So yeah, I guess we would by then. I guess I was thinking medieval times was way further back than it actually was.
it's like
Uh,
yeah, it's like 1500s.
yeah.
okay, so maybe, but yeah, like I my only issue with world map is like on the spot they couldn't verify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, like if you went somewhere and if you were like, okay, like go go to here, right? And then you pull up the map and it's like, yeah, this looks right. And then I mean, even if like you go over to like I don't know somewhere else, like it's right. Like I don't know.
I suppose, but it would take a while to verify the validity of your
And you'd
map.
have to bring a lot of people with you. You couldn't verify it on the spot.
I feel like these
I'm
people got to
imagining you're
know
in like
immediately you're from the future. That's gonna take a hot minute.
I'm picturing you're in like a town square talking to people, and it's like,
Mhm.
here's what the world looks like. Okay, what? You know?
Mhm. All right. Well, then
That's a bit more difficult.
I'll just bring a book that's how to perform all the Fortnite dances then.
Joseph, what are you thinking over
He's
there?
doing the Orange Justice. He must be from the future. I would have to. So I can give a vague description because I have to do more research on the actual item.
Mhm.
But the idea would be a piece of work, like a tool, maybe 1 or 2 generations ahead of what they have. So
Sure.
like I'd have to be more specific. And like I don't really know like the progression of like tool making and like it's particularly farming because that's where a lot of innovation was at that time.
Right.
But like let's say the printing press, like just after the printing press, let's just say for example, like the next iteration where it's like more refined. So it's like somewhat familiar technology, but like, oh, that's like a step that we physically like the parts are too small or too intricate for us to build right now. But that's like the clearly the next logical step, or like
Right.
farming equipment is like a pretty another clear one. I think it has to have a very close allegory to what is like common knowledge.
Right.
You
Yeah, I like
know?
the idea of having some intricate parts because then the steel workers at the time be like, we can't make that. Like something's going on where like we don't have the ability to make this thing. We understand it because it's like metal or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
I can dig that.
I would also imagine time travel in and of itself would be a very difficult concept for medieval people. I
Oh
feel
no,
like,
they were doing fairy tales and stuff. I'm sure they and they
yeah,
know what time is. I mean, they've all aged.
yeah, but like, yeah, I guess I haven't studied like culture at that point to like know like what their understanding of I don't know, like story, like do they tell predictions of the future, like and like
Hmm.
how into
Well, I mean, like
integral into society that is. I think
they know
that's a
about
big
like the
question.
Bible, which has prophecies in it and stuff. So
That's true, I suppose.
I don't think time travel would be like a super foreign concept.
Okay,
Gabe, what do you
I
got?
just know that. Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's many factors to this problem. I think about this a lot. One, the people are going to be scared no matter what. All right. I think about if you had people now, even like I think we've seen enough sci-fi shows, but like if someone showed up and like, hey, I'm from the future, everyone's gonna be like bullshit, and they're gonna be scared or like not understand it. So I
Hmm.
think the item I would bring would most likely bring fear and rejection more than anything. So
Mm-hmm.
I would go one of two routes. One, domination. I would find a way to get power as quickly as possible and almost pick something so convoluted that it would be incomparable to like understand. But I think the other issue with this problem is if you were to bring something intricate, humans now don't need to know everything. I think
Hmm.
2000, okay, not even middle further back than Middle Ages, and you could learn everything and it was fine because like the knowledge was so limited. But now, like if I were to bring like I don't know, uh, I don't even know, like even if I brought like an assault rifle and it broke, I'd be like, "Pfft, I'll Google it, but oh wait, there's no Google.
Hmm.
Like we have such a niche knowledge set now just because of how deep knowledge has gone. Like no human can learn everything, right? It has to be decentralized. So I think it would need to be an object that would either uh ensure my survivability. Because in this scenario, I don't want to go back in time, all right? Like it's just happening.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I need to like find out how I'm gonna survive because I'm assuming I can't go back. Or two, it gives me enough power or capability to
Well,
survive on my own.
what if we frame it? We should have done this at the beginning. I apologize. What if we frame it as like, okay, it's like a bet. It's like if you can
Yeah,
go back in time and convince people you're from the future, we'll give you $1 million, and
Oh,
then you
okay.
come back.
I thought
yeah,
to
that's how
convince them.
I perceive the question like this
I'm
is a
sorry.
temporary thing. You're not living because the other
I
is like,
took it
what
as
would you
like
take
you're
back?
going back in time, impress them, or you're dead. That's how
Nah, it's like a
thought it was
bet.
from.
Yeah, it's a
Gabe's like
bet.
5
Okay.
javelin missiles.
You see that castle over there? Watch this.
That's actually not a bad idea. If they had like a
I
nation they were warring against, like, yo, I can take that out immediately.
think okay. Here's what you do. You got
You
to do the
want
bad guy
sieges
thing.
to be
You kill a
irrelevant?
man.
Here we go.
Yeah, you kill a man and be like, "Hey, I can kill 1,000 men. Just give me this much money, and I'll prove it to you. I'm from the future." And then you have like enough missiles. So you have like 2. You show one off as a demo. You're like, yeah, that just destroyed an entire castle. Pay me a lot of money. I'll do it again. And then you come back with your gold, and you're set. Like, look, mid age. Can you bring it back? That'd be a weird
I
time
was just
problem.
thinking. I was thinking like, if you can do it, we'll give you $1 million when you come back, something like that.
But here's the problem, right? Like, if you're asking time paradoxes and you're like, you kill someone, like, you would theoretically kill millions of people in the future because, like, the whole
Oh,
branching thing.
yeah.
Well,
we can-
it's the Avengers time
Yeah,
travel
yeah, so
where
it's
it's a
Avengers
different
thing.
branch.
As long
It
as I
doesn't
put
matter.
it back, as long as I put
Yeah.
the people back.
Yeah, just set them upright and you're fine.
Okay, what
Okay,
if
I would
we
go
do
with the weapon then.
Okay, that's fair. What if we do the Back to the Future method, where we look up like if we have, and we have this data, if we look at the weather from that time, and we go and we just predict the weather perfectly, and we're like, yo, I only know this because I'm from the future.
But we
Okay,
don't
so
have weather records to back then.
Yeah, so it might,
So
yeah,
I
that'd
was
be an issue.
thinking you could bring like a world history book, but people would just think that you're like some hokey fortune teller. I don't know if they would believe that you're
Sure.
from the future. They'd just be like, okay, so you believe that you can see that, like Nostradamus or whatever. Like
Mhm.
he was, I don't think people like literally thought he was from the future. It was just like, oh, he's got some weird visions of some crazy shit.
Right.
I do
don't
kind of wonder about like a chemistry textbook or something like that, because I like back then they were kind of into like alchemy.
But that
And,
would
like-
just come off as an alchemist, though, right? Like,
And they would
Yes.
again, they wouldn't be able to
'cause they wouldn't
verify a lot of this
understand
stuff.
it.
They can't. They won't be able to see
Yeah.
atoms and shit. They don't have
Yeah.
microscopes or anything.
But if it's
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
a very basic chemistry where it's like, okay, I think
chemistry
to
for 5-year-olds.
well, I mean, that's what their understanding of chemistry was. It's not that they were 5, but or the
Yeah.
mental capacity of a 5-year-old, but like that was their understanding.
I would just be
Is more
afraid
so my
that
point.
these people would immediately assume you're like a sorcerer or some fucking demented person, more so than like that you're from the future.
Yeah, that's why I think it's good to have something that's made out of like metal or something like that, like
Weapons.
Joseph was saying. But what about like a bicycle? That's not that complicated, and it's immediately useful to them, and it never like runs out of gas. Like it might break, but like
Let me see your trails, bro.
that's something they could hop on and do themselves and have fun with,
No
And be
one's
like,
gonna
yeah.
ride a bike immediately in the first try.
Yeah, but you teach them how to ride a bike. It's not that hard.
But at that point, like, how do you know that you're from the future, not just an inventor?
Because of
You know,
the small
that's-
pieces. What if they can't? It's like we were saying earlier. It's like I don't think they could make a bike chain back then.
If you did something like a small motorcycle, like an older one, I think that would be more, as long as it didn't break on you, I guess.
It might run out
Yeah.
of gas though. I mean, you have a
But,
limited time
okay,
period.
but we've
to
changed
press
the
it.
rules. All you need to do is prove that you're from the future.
Yeah, but
Then
what
you
if
can
it's
go
not
back.
enough time? I don't know. I'm sticking with my camelback. I think for whatever reason, I think it's something they can understand, they can use, they have some relation to.
I pick
I'm sticking with it.
RPGs, like just straight up weapons.
The minigun.
You've seen cannons? Watch this.
Joseph, what's your final answer? You going the printing press thing?
Yeah, except it'd probably be more centered around like farming equipment, just because I think that'd be more applicable to more people, especially like in medieval times. So like whatever past the horse-drawn, can I think of like till
Plow.
Yeah.
plow,
Sure.
like just a more advanced that, I suppose.
Bring them a
Dane, what's your
John
final
Deere
answer?
that if they don't pay the subscription service, it turns off.
Yeah. So this is called an international harvester. And it uses GPS tracking to farm your fields for you.
So I've changed my answer completely. I'm gonna bring a
Mhm.
5-pound bucket of pre-workout.
Why?
Because it'd just be funny. Like,
Get them all hopped up on caffeine and shit.
Bring them 4 energy drinks with a sticky note.
It's like a 5-gallon bucket of caffeine pills. Let's go.
Pretty much.
Well, let us know in the YouTube comments or I don't know, Instagram comments or DM us on Instagram who you think would win this bet between the 4 of us. But yeah, that is our episode for this week. Hope you guys had fun at the end there. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again in 1 month-ish. I'm not sure with Dayton doing his long trail when we'll be able to record. We'll figure that later. So a month-ish, maybe 5 weeks or so. But again, don't forget to follow us on socials and Twitch. Links are in the description below. But until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.